Hi everyone, JJIR here, and today we're going to see a little bit more about Linux on Chromebooks. There are a few questions that came up in the last video, so we're going to respond to those, and we're also going to see a little bit about how to graphically install Linux applications on the Chromebook and how to use Visual Studio on the Chromebook for programming. So first off, we just want to underline which Chromebooks, which was one of the questions that came up, which Chromebooks can you use for Linux on the Chromebooks. And the only thing that we have right now available is from XDA developers. This is an unofficial list, but at least it gives you some idea of the ones that can and cannot. So for example, this is not updated because the Pixel Slate is not here, but you have the Pixel Slate, the Pixelbook, then you have the Samsung Chromebook Plus, HP Chromebook X2, the Asus Chromebook Flip. I actually installed Linux on this and it worked out perfectly. It's a little bit slower than on the Pixelbook, but it works just fine. You have a couple Chrome boxes. I also installed it here on the Acer Chromebook tab, and it was, again, slow, but it works out fine. The only slight problem with the tab and the Flip is that they are 32-bit, and that means that some Linux applications or programs are not going to work there because many Linux programs require 64-bit. So if you want to make sure you have the biggest range of possibilities with Linux on Chromebooks, you want to look for a 64-bit, which is what we have with the Pixelbook and the X2, for example. And I'm not too sure about the Chromebook Plus, but it's easily found on the internet. So the idea here is that you have to investigate to see which Chromebooks are actually going to work. And then down below it gives you a list of Chromebooks that will not or may not get Linux support. And then there's another page that actually goes into more detail of the ones that will not or may not get Linux support. So if you really want Linux support, you want to make sure that you avoid these to make sure you don't run the risk of not being able to have access. The other thing that you need to keep in mind, if we go to settings here, which will go here, when you go under About Chrome OS, you need to make sure that it's from 69 and above. So most of the time, Chromebooks usually keep up to date. So right now, we're in between versions 71 and 72. So there might be some Chromebooks that are still on 71, but at the moment of making this video, we should be up to 72, with the beta being 73 and Canary being 74. So between 69 and 74 right now, or anything above 69, should have access to the Linux applications. So you just need to make sure. We're not up above 74, so if anyone thinks that we're above that, it means they have to investigate a little bit more. But between 69 and 74, you should be just fine in using Linux applications. So having said that, we can go back here. And like I mentioned before, we're going to be installing the Gnome Software Center. I tried doing Synaptic. It wasn't working out, which is another point I have to mention here, that in many instances, even if you install a Linux application and it allowed you to install it, does not mean it's going to work or work well. So just keep in mind this is still in beta mode, and therefore there could be problems when you install things. Then, as well, we're going to install Visual Studio Code so that you guys can develop here, because that also came out in various instances, also in Quora, asking about if you could program on a Chromebook, and now with this possibility, the answer is 100% yes. So what we're going to do is we need to go to GitHub, and this link I will also put under the video, as well as the rest of them here. And you need to go to github/jasonjuritich/jj-gas, and then we're going to go up to the one that says Debian. So if you go here again to this Jason Juritich, which is the beginning point, jj-gas, and then here you can go to the one that says Debian. If you click on Debian here, then we'll just go down to the one that says for Debian on a Chromebook, and you just grab this guy here, and then Control C. And then what we need to do is go to Settings. And when you're on Settings, you go to the part that says Linux. It has to come out here again. If you have a Chromebook that has Linux capabilities, it's going to be in this section that says Linux Beta, as we mentioned before. And then we're going to turn this on. And then we'll click on Install. Now this will take about 2 minutes on a Pixelbook. It might take between 5 and 10 minutes if you're using another Chromebook that's slightly slower. And also, the velocity of the internet is going to affect this. So if you're on a slower internet connection, it could take a lot longer, because at this moment in time, what's happening is that the Chrome is now downloading the things it needs for installing Linux. So It's based again on how fast your Chromebook is and on how fast your internet connection is. So we'll leave that to finish off, and when the terminal pops out, which will come out automatically after it's done installing Linux, then we will add the rest of it to install the other applications. Okay, so that took under 2 minutes actually here on the Pixelbook. So because I'm using a Pixelbook right now, if I hadn't clarified that before, the thing we're going to do here is we're going to click on Ctrl-Shift-V, and Ctrl-Shift-V will paste this. Just take into account that when you're using a terminal here in Linux, you don't use Control-V, use Ctrl-Shift-V. Remember, this is using Debian, so everything that we're putting here is in relationship to Debian. So it's using apt update and apt-get update and all that type of stuff. Apt-get install. So after we do that, all we have to do is click on Enter here so that it can start installing the things that it needs to install. This is basically what we mentioned before. It's a lot of Node and JavaScript stuff, which is I use basically, but we're also adding the Gnome app repository and Visual Studio. So this is going to take almost exactly 20 minutes. I've already timed it. So we're going to come back after this is done installing itself, and we'll look at the two applications that I mentioned before. Okay, so the installation is now done. We're just going to clear here. We really don't need this anymore because we're not going to work here. So we're going to close this guy up. Leave, yes. And now we're going to see what it installed. So we're just going to go here and then click up here. And now we have a nice little folder here that we can name Linux for now. I just combine them like this so I have some clear idea of where everything is at. Then clicking on this guy, we have two things. We have Visual Studio Code and software. So we'll click on this guy first to see what he has. And as you can see, it now gives us a graphical way of installing applications. So if I go here to look for something, I can do GIMP, for example. Let's get out of this. Oh, I'm still in uppercase. GIMP comes out. I can install this if I want. So I'm going to click on this guy, and it says install. And you can also uninstall the things as well here. So we have this possibility. I don't use GIMP, but you guys can use it there. Or I can install graphically here as well, Visual Studio. And this one kind of comes out as well. So it installs. You can launch it here or remove it. But this guy is also available. So we're going to, now that we've seen this, we're going to go directly into Visual Studio Code so as not to lengthen this video any longer than it needs to be. So I'll close that guy up, go in here again, and we have actually the shortcuts already here, so we'll just click on this guy. So now he's opening up here. This is going to pop out saying that you can use Visual Studio in this way, in this way, in this way. So you have a whole bunch of stuff. It also offers suggestions for extensions that we can try to add in as well right now. We have TSLint and ESLint and things like that so that you can play around. But when we go here and make this bigger, and the first thing I like doing is going to View and to Appearance and making this slightly bigger because it is very small when it opens up in the Chromebook. And then here is on the side we have Tools and Languages, Install Support For, and you have various things here. This is the same as looking for things manually here in the extension area. So you can close that or open that up. So we can just click on JavaScript, which we do want. Reload, yes, okay. It's going to reload itself, wonderful. And then we're in TypeScript because we're also going to use that guy. And yes, we'll click on OK. So it just restarts itself a couple of times here, which is fine. So now that we have this, the next thing we want to do is to add a folder here. So we have the folder up here in Explorer, and we want to open the folder. But first, we're going to go to the folder section here in Chrome OS. And now we have a new section here that says Linux. So we're going to click on this guy, and we have these things here. We have now TypeScript and package lock and node modules, all wonderful stuff, so we can start programming. And we right-click on this guy, new folder, and we're going to put VS, Visual Studio, enter. And now we have a nice new empty folder here we can use. Get out of this guy. We're going to go to File here, and then Open Folder. And here we go to Desktop, and now we can click on the VS one that we just created. Click OK, and now we have a nice empty folder here that we can start using to add things to. So the first thing I want to show you guys here real quick is I'm just going to make a new document. I'm just going to make this node.ts and click on Enter there. And if I go here to the document and I start adding something here, you're going to see that it will now give me possibilities of automatically filling these out. So I can do a spreadsheet app, and then I can do open by ID, and all these are what I use for Google Apps Script. And it's nice here because now that we've added a whole bunch of packages to be able to use and autocomplete the stuff for Google Apps Script, I don't really need to be in a Google Apps Script on Google Drive. I can just be here and work away using the things that normally we have here. And the nice thing here is that if we finish this off here, let me see what language I'm in, because that's the problem. You have to be careful, because if you're in the wrong language here, then you're going to have a problem of being able to use this correctly. So we're just going to switch that back to US. And then going back here, our keyboard should work now. Yes, it does. And then we can put here dot and then copy or whatever we want to do here, and then semicolon. Now, as you can see here, it's saying there's an error. This is really awesome. It means it's already trying to correct things here. So if we see under the extensions, say it's already got ESLint here and TSLint, and we can put debugger for Chrome and other extensions here that will also make our lives easier. So what's nice is it's already giving me errors here, telling me that something's wrong, so I can fix it. So I can do quotes here and then put whatever, and now the error went away, which is really cool. So this helps tremendously to just program here directly without having to jump into Google Apps Script online. And the idea here is that I can work offline and online here on the Chromebook while I'm programming without any problems, and then synchronize everything through Git, which is what the last thing we need to see here. So after we have this all done, what we first want to do is we want to make sure we have a repository. We're just going to use a fake one for now. And if we go back here, I actually have a dummy repository that I opened up, a public one, which I'm going to delete later on. And let's go to repositories, see where this guy's at. It's this one here, test VS. So we'll click on this guy. And this is our wonderful repository in GitHub. So here we just click on clone or download. We just need to grab this link here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here and then add this and a few other things that we're going to need for processing things within Visual Studio, so we can connect to the GitHub here the easiest way possible. Okay, so let's go back to Visual Studio here, and I put some text here so we can play around with this a little bit. So the first thing we want to do to connect our Git world here to Visual Studio on the Chromebook is we're going to go to Terminal here, open up a new terminal. Now we have a nice terminal down here. Just in case you guys didn't know, I found this out. Right-clicking here on the bar here in the space allows you to move the panel right if you want, so you can add it here. And then with the arrows here, you can actually extend this guy. And then in the space again, you can move it back down, just in case you guys didn't know that. So I like going back and forth, especially if I don't have a lot of code here that's very long, then I'll just put it vertically, which I find a little bit easier. And there's some nice keyboard shortcuts here as well. So if you have Control-1 and then Control backtick, so to speak, you can go here and then you can go to this will too. This will open up another one here. But if you go to 1 here, it brings it here, and then to the backtick. Oh, I don't know what language. Okay. So anyhow, there's keyboard shortcuts that allow you to jump from here to here, which is actually pretty cool, that I use quite a bit. But if it doesn't work for you, that means we have to reset some things up here, because right now, for example, it's not jumping. But anyhow, point here is that there are keyboard shortcuts that allow you to go back and forth from here and here, and I will put that more clearly in the description below the video so that we don't waste any more time on trying to figure out how to go back and forth. But anyhow, the point here is that we need to set up Git here. So the first thing we want to do is grab the first line here, which is going to be this guy here. We're going to do Control-C, and we're going to bring him down here. Remember that in the terminal we have to use Control-Shift-V. And what this is making it global so that Git knows how we're going to, so to speak, sign and commit everything that we want to move up to GitHub. So we're going to click on Enter there, and that's all done. Then the second thing we want to do in this folder here, the VS folder, is to clone this guy. So we're going to grab him here. We don't need the and there. I was trying to do everything at the same time. And then go down here, and we're going to, again, Control-Shift-V. That does that. It says it's cloning. So that's all done. And now we have our wonderful clone here, which is here below. We have VS, and then below that we have the test VS that we cloned. So that one is there now. And then to make sure in the future that we're able to work with this and not have any problems with passwords and things like that, we need to do this last thing, which is a little bit weird, but it's what solved my problem when I was doing this, which is we're going to grab this last element here, which is going to allow us to save our username and password for the future. So we're going to go down here, we're going to click on that. We can do paste here, and then click on enter. And I'm sorry, this is an error that I've done constantly, and I did it again here. Before we can do this, we need to actually go into the directory here. So first, we need to go to CD, and then go to the directory of where this guy is. Then we can click that there and put him there. So now it's asking me for the username of the GitHub remote repository, which is that. And then this password here, also very important to underline. If you have two-factor authentication, you need a special key here. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump out of this guy for 1 second. And when we go back in here, if you go into your options here and then go to settings in GitHub, when you go into settings, you have developer settings. And in developer settings, you're going to have personal access tokens. So you need to create one of these. If you have two-factor authentication, you need to create one of these because your normal password is not going to work when you put that in there. So once you have that created, which I do, and I'm just going to pop it in so that it doesn't come out in the video, you're able to copy that. Something will come out here, and you're able to copy it. You copy it somewhere else, save it somewhere else, and then copy it from another place into a Visual Studio Code. So we're just going to pause there for a second to pop that in. Okay, so I copied the token I had, so we're going to pop that in here. Ctrl-Shift-V. You're not going to see anything. You just click on Enter after that's done, and it's going to tell you that everything is up to date. And now that's actually saved, and we don't have to worry about this anymore. So when I want to push and pull and things like that, it won't ask me constantly for my username and password, which is what it was doing before. So now that we have that, we can go into this document here, for example. And I've been playing around with this. We're just going to add a couple other lines here. So as you can see here, we have how about this. If we go into that repository right now, go back here to our repositories, so you guys can see how this is going to work out. Let's go to repositories. We're already there. Go to test here. Then we have this document here, which we're going to worry about. Here we're down at how about this. So we have here. So we're just going to add more text here and put whatever we want here. So we're going to leave it like that. And so obviously what we need to do right now is to push this up. So how's this going to work? Well, the first thing we need to do here, there's a very important point here I have to mention, and I forgot to mention before. Under File, we have something that's called Autosave. Autosave really saves you from a lot of suffering. So we're going to turn on Autosave to make sure that everything that we type here is saved every second, which I find pretty cool. So now that we have that there, which was very important to put in the first place, we can now go to here, the source control. And going into the source control, we have our wonderful guy here. So we're going to click on the plus here, which is stage the changes, which would be git add dash uppercase A if we're doing it down here. And so we just click on this guy, and he says, okay, those stages are checked. Then we have commit here, which would be git space commit dash M, so you can put the message. And so we're going to do that, and then it says what message. I'm just going to put done for now. Click on that guy, so he's committing everything, which is the second step. And then finally, the last step is the 3 dots here, and then we just push it. So we're going to click on push here, and it says it's moving along with this little blue line here telling us that everything's okay. Asked me to do something else. I said ask me later. No, we don't need that. And now if we go over here and refresh this, we should see our changes, and there they are. So Git is now working perfectly here. And again, if I want to do the same thing down here, I would have to do the classical things of git, add, and then dash A, which we do here. And then you'd say git commit and dash M, and then the message here. So you'd say done, for example. And then click on that guy. Okay, you're up to date. That's wonderful. And then if I want to do the rest, I would just say git push origin master. Okay. Which is exactly, okay, git put, okay, I did not spell that right. Not going to help me very much. Okay, there we go. So those are the three steps we just did right now, are what we did here, which was the plus sign here, the check mark, and the push are the 3 steps here that we can do in the same thing. So that basically sums up how we can use Visual Studio, which underlines once again that we can use this for programming without any problem. And later on, I will do some more detailed work here in another video to explain how we can use Google Apps Script here and mix and match and whatever we want to do here in the future. So hopefully this video helped you, and if there's any questions or doubts about this, please leave it in the comments below, and I will definitely make another video to resolve anything else that's needed in relationship to those questions. Otherwise, thank you very much and take care.